Selfish ambition and vain conceit are the two things that Jesus tells us to take out. You can take it out by rethinking it. Selfish and self-control, two different things, unless we define them. Here's the thing. We want to say, if it is selfish, it's sort of like being childish. We're called to be childlike, but not childish. It's the ish that makes it the problem. If we can't take it out, then selfish ambition, here's the thing. You might win more, and you will damage more. If I want to be selfish at home, I will get more of mine. And I will damage my family and others because of it. Coaches, this is what we say. It is not selfish to say, you need to get into the weight room because you need to get stronger. That's about self. You need to work on these skills if you want to get better. That's about self. We make it selfish if it's all about you. Because we need you to be better for the team. You need to be better for others. But the only way we can do that is if we tie it back into this column. It's not so this is the skill of coaching. You zoom in. You need to. Those are zooming in. You need to. But we also have to zoom out. There's a bigger picture to this. Because it's not all about you. If we make it all about you, there's no way to create team cohesion. Because you got 11 individuals and not one team. And then we also have to say, we need the other team. Without the other team, we don't have a game. We need them. And we need them to bring their best also. That's the point. We need to bring our best. You have to work on yourself to become the best version of yourself. That's not selfish. Because the best version of myself needs to be the best version for others as well. That's what I'm saying. If we can rethink, and if that coach is going out and doing that, you can't control that. But do you want to become that? Now they're forming you. They're doing it so I can do it. That sounds like an excuse. Now I'm living below the line. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I get it. This is the kind of rethinking we need to make. If we really believe you have to be selfish, then that's what we'll coach. And we'll create the government official who is selfish. And we'll create the businessman who is selfish. Because we made them selfish here. We can make them, we say, no, not selfish, the best version of yourself. And selfish is a terrible version of yourself. Selfless. Thinking of yourself less and others more is a better version. But if I'm no good, and I'm thinking of others, I'm still no good. I want you to be the best version of yourself. Selfishness is not the best version of yourself. That's how you can rethink that. To say, yes, I've got to work on myself. I've got to get better at these things. I've got to do this. But I want to be the best version of myself. So I need to work from this column too. That's the kind of rethinking we want you to do. That's the kind of rethinking that it means to live under the rule and reign of one who wants us to be that. Thank you for sharing that. That is what we're wrestling with. How do we make this look different and still build the best version of our players? Another group, somebody else. Yes.
Okay. So talk about competing against and competing with. So let me give this example now. I'm a coach, and my own club. let me assume I want to play with Barcelona now, and I don't have the quality and solid players to play better and win the match. Now, with my own players, am I going there to compete against or compete with? Because I know that with my own players, it's very hard. The winning percentage, in fact, the losing percentage is 99.8 for me to win them. Because I know that I don't have the players. So, am I going there to compete against? Am I going there to compete with? For greatness.
And that would be this would be a great exercise. What does it look like, sound like, and feel like to do it with? And what does it look like, sound like, and feel like to do it against? If I'm doing it with, what would it look like? What would it sound like? What would it feel like? If I'm doing it against, what would it look like? What would it sound like? What would it feel like? That's the imagination we need to have, so that we can imagine it and then move towards it. Am I doing? And that's the question. If I'm doing it with, what would it look like, sound like, feel like? If I'm doing it against, what would I expect to see? What would I expect to hear? What would I expect to feel? Somebody else, any other? Coach's voice. Everybody
In
here.
our group, we discuss about character. So coaches, when they want to put their player in, they will say, if you miss ball,
Don't
don't
miss
miss
leg.
leg.
Say it quietly. I want to. If you miss, say it again.
If you miss ball, don't miss leg. So
Miss
that
the- miss the ball.
Here's what I say. Here's what I say to that. Here's what I say to that. That ain't coaching. Thank you, coach. I didn't know that I shouldn't miss it. And that's Captain Obvious. Coaching needs to look and say, what did you do that you missed it? So that next time you will make that change. It's learning. I mean, what? I missed. You took your eye off the ball and you were already looking at where you wanted to go. Next time, that's coaching. This is what happened. Next time, this is what you need to do. But again, what does that look like, sound like, and feel like? And how do I coach that in a way that builds who they are and not diminishes? I have to say, how do I coach greatness and still function out of this category? How do I coach greatness in love? If I don't care, that is the most unloving thing. If I don't care about the kid and what they do or don't do, so I'm not going to yell at them. I'm not going to do any of that. That's as unloving as you can be. Because if you went down that list, love is patient, is kind, it doesn't enter, boast, proud, rude. It always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres, it never fails. I'm never going to fail that kid. I'm going to always stay with them, no matter if they fail or not, I won't. Those are the things as a coach I have to model before I can demand. I have to model it and demonstrate it first. Anyone else? Yes?
In one of the 4 pillars of football, there is what we call psychosocial. So, in our football teams, many of our players doesn't know many things, how to cope with their problems or how to cope with their addictions. Many are smokers, many takes hard drugs. So, and when they get to the main purpose of football, that is maybe professional trials, especially abroad, and when they are being in medical, you will see a very wonderful player failing medical. So, we need to be telling players what to take and what not to take. We need to be telling players the importance of nutrition and malnutrition. So we need to let players know how to control themselves when it comes to smoking, drinking, and healthiness.
Sure. And yet, again, Think about it, that's still coaching out of the column of greatness. Because we want them to achieve their goal. How do we also incorporate, because I can do all of that for selfishness as well as for others. So how do I incorporate attributes of goodness? Because all of that is necessary for the column of greatness. But that's always to achieve the goal. We need to figure out what the purpose is. So, good. That's part of it. I want to push you toward not the performance end, but the moral end. Because the performance end is self-evident. It's just self-evident. We recognize it. I get into sports to improve performance. I want to get into sports to improve who they are as well. Not just what they do. Anyone else? I mean, I did see one group back there fully engaged. That was all of you were fully engaged.
We'll try to summarize the 3 topics that are outlined. We took it from the greatness, the goodness, and the bad. Now we try to summarize together. How can get the whole of things to be put together? So how can get the whole of things to be put together? I will now pick discipline from greatness. Because we believe when you are disciplined, anything inside the bad characters will not come your way. You will be very honest because you are doing like each that we're talking about. Some people bring other 15 to come and play under 7 or under 10 because they want to win. You are self-disciplined, so be fair. You as a leader, when you are disciplined, your players will also emulate you. So if the disciplined coach will not come to the training, drinking and drinking alcohol, and you want your players to be good. Like what he has outlined the other time. Some of them indulge in drugs and everything like that. That makes them to fail trials. So once you are disciplined, you take these things away from yourself. You will not be selfish. You would like to share things with others. So I believe discipline encompasses every aspect of the 3 things you have taught us this morning, from the badness to the goodness and to the greatness.
I would say this, maybe. I would disagree with that. Terrorists are disciplined. Soldiers are disciplined. But they're disciplined to kill. I'm not sure that's a good thing. Discipline is essential to get where we need to go. Discipline doesn't tell us where we're going. Discipline, but when you're saying that, you're already imagining what you want, and that's a good thing. And so I can't get that good thing without discipline. That's true. But discipline, I can be very disciplined so that I can earn a lot of money. But I can just roll over a lot of people doing it as well. On my way to that. If you're in my way, you're going to be in trouble because nothing's stopping me from getting there. And so, again, your imagination has a good end. And then you're saying, I can't get to that good end without discipline. But what if my imagination doesn't have a good end? Jealous people are very disciplined. They can be very disciplined. I think when you're talking about an attribute here, you need to understand it's just fuel. Discipline is fuel. Moral is the compass. Immoral is a compass too. It just points you in the wrong direction. Yeah. Good afternoon. That's already 12:07. Sorry.
Good afternoon, coaches. I'd like to say we discussed about a lot of things, but we pointed on love being the main thing. Because if you get your players to love you, or you love your players, they will listen to you and you will impact with them. And they will play for themselves, not for them. They will play for the team, not for themselves. Now, if you get your players to love the opponent too, a player will not want to injure an opponent that will take him out of the game entirely. If we get ourselves to love ourselves as coaches, we aspire for the greatness of each and every one of us and not go behind our backs and plan our downfall. So the main thing is this love. Thank you, sir.
Dang, that'll preach. That'll preach. Well said. Well said. When we talk about motivation, what's the most powerful motivating force in the universe? It's love. Love is the most powerful motivating force in the universe. Think about it. You will do things for people you love that you are not motivated to do for others you love. I will lay down my life for the people I love. I wish I could say that for sure for you, but I'm not sure. No, honestly.
Yes.
Honestly. I'm not sure that I'm at that level yet. But I do know I'll lay down my life for my family. That's powerful motivation. Why wouldn't we coach using the most powerful motivating force in the universe? And here's why we don't. Because love is patient. Patience takes time. I don't have that kind of time. Season is too short. Anger will get results. It takes no time at all. Fear will get results, and it takes no time at all. And they will. They just do damage and require more. That's, I hear it from coaches, I don't have that kind of time. Season's too short. But that is just so well said. So well said. So, wrestling with what it would look like, sound like, feel like in your sport. This is the challenge. Let me give you a video from our online training of a coach who, this is in our values module, choosing core values. This is from a coach, she coaches volleyball, and this is what she wrestled with her team. Here's just a short little snippet from a real process she involved in. I'll fill in a little afterwards. Let's take a listen.
I had reached the pinnacle. At 28 years old, I had led my team to nationals and broken school records for wins. We had great leadership from our captains, great team chemistry. And to top it off, I was a first-time mom. In my mind, I was juggling it all spectacularly. I thought I had arrived. But on the trip home from nationals, I felt a sense of dissatisfaction and pressure. What will we do next year? How can I top that? Do I just try to do it all again? It caused me to rethink what mattered most, and something had to change. I came to the realization that I didn't simply want to win championships and create memories. I wanted there to be something that we could leave from season to season, and I wanted the experience our players had in our program to live on and impact their future lives. One of the main things I felt we needed to do was identify and function out of core values. For time's sake, let me focus on just one of our team's values, integrity. When our team started the process of what it meant to live out integrity, the concept of honor calls took center stage. The best example of an honor call in volleyball is when you go up to block an opponent's shot, and the ball just skims off your fingers and goes out of bounds. The referee doesn't see the touch and awards the point to you. The honor call is simply to say, I touched it. The result is to lose a point. As our team talked through the concept of honor calls, it caused quite a bit of unrest. What if this cost us a match? We wrestled with the competitive spirit and what it means to have core values and asked ourselves, what was more important, winning or integrity? Hear me in this. Our team plays the game to win. It would be dishonoring to our opponents if we didn't. But are some things more important than that? I decided not to force a decision, but enable a process. In our unsettled state, we found out that this was really a matter of the heart and the spirit. And each of us needed to work through these issues. After that process, one by one, our players agreed that if we were going to have integrity as a core value, then we needed to make honor calls. We determined it wasn't just the official's job to make sure that the competition was honorable. At that time, I had no idea what was in store for us. But now we're 10 years down the road, and it's been everything I hoped it would be and more. Let me turn it over to one who was on that team at the time and is now an assistant coach in our program.
It's been over 10 years since that initial conversation, but it is still so real and so fresh in my mind. My first thought was, it is not my job to be looking for and to call touches off the block. That's the ref's job. Why would I want to give away 3 points? I could not see myself getting behind that. Thankfully, Coach gave us the summer to talk about it and to think about it. Could this be a good thing? Could our team have a bigger impact beyond the volleyball court? What was most important? I did a lot of thinking. We voted again in the fall, a unanimous yes to move forward and call on Thursday. That whole season, every time we had an on the court, I cringed inside. But I was so proud of my teammates for what was being formed and demonstrated. Integrity. And unexpected blessings happen each year when Coach Wilmer reads communications from the parents of the opposing team, saying how impressed they were when they saw our on the call, and how they noticed something different about our team. The way we act, whether we're winning or losing, and they always mention that it is so refreshing to see a coaching staff build and mentor young women to have strong character and not just to be great volleyball players.
They have strong character and not just be great volleyball players, to be good volleyball players as well. What do you think when you hear that? What does that make you feel as you hear that? What comes to mind? Yeah, that's nice, but you can't do that. What do you have to do that? You gotta take winning off the top. Winning can't be most important. Why would I give away 3 points? That doesn't make any sense. Because that harms our opportunity to win. Why would we do that? Which is a good question. Why would you do that? If I can't come up with a reason, I'm not going to do it. Why would they do that? Why would you do that? It's not as extreme in football, and we're not talking initially about giving up a goal. Because giving up 1 point out of 25 in a set, but it's still 1 point out of 25 in a set. It's 1/25 of the points you need to make. It's actually 2 points, because you lose one and they get one. So every call is a 2-point swing. Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. You can't come up with a reason, you won't do it either. Why did they do it? Did you catch the reason why they're doing it? What's that? They're doing it because of the core value of integrity. They're doing it because they believe integrity requires them to do that. So if we don't do it, then what? We don't have integrity. Okay, so I can say, Coach, don't do it. If that's what matters, then that's your choice. That's what they came to. Here's our choice. Is winning more important than integrity?
Yes, sir.
According to the sports world, the answer is of course it is. That's why football erodes moral character. Okay, you can't choose the action and the consequence. You don't get to choose both. If you could choose this action, this is the consequence. Football played like it is erodes moral character. That's the truth. Live with it. Or don't live with it. And then say, what can I do about it? I can build moral character, but I got to take winning off the top. If I want to build moral character, winning cannot be on top. That's your choice. That's your choice. If I want to follow Jesus, winning can't be most important. That's your choice. That's your choice. You have the choice, but you don't choose the consequence. That's why I'm messing with you today. You might not like me. I don't care. Because your kids matter more than your winning. Look what happened to the team to start with. And what did that player say to end with? You know what it did? Because one of their core values, these are the 5. Integrity, tenacity, freedom from the pressure to win, and then love. There's one more. I can't remember. I'll think of it in a minute. But they had 5. Those are 4. Integrity, tenacity, freedom from the pressure to win, love. When we could take winning off the top, we've now freed ourselves from the pressure. And now we can be the best version of ourselves. They had joy because they didn't have the pressure, because they took winning off the top. And because they did, they win a lot. They're always in the hunt for the national championship. They won it one year. Last year they were in the top 4. The year before that they were in the top 5. But they've taken winning off the top. She didn't force them to do it. Notice that. Not force it. They had a conversation. What would that mean to sit down with your team and say, let's talk about it? What does this mean? What do we want to become? If we make the call, I cringe. I hate losing a point. But I felt so good inside because I recognized we were demonstrating integrity. We were telling the truth. And the result is this. People see it. People see it. As you said, every year the coach gets emails from opposing fans, opposing parents, sending them saying how much they appreciate the joy that they play and the honesty they demonstrate. And they weren't just making great volleyball players, they were making great people. If you want your government official to tell the truth, and your business leader to tell the truth, and you don't tell the truth on your team, then they're not going to tell the truth in their jobs. Back to that again. You can't choose your action and the consequence. The consequence is a direct result of the action. Your self-interest has to come off the top. Or it's just a matter of degree, but it's in the same direction. You think, by the way, would you want to hire one of these girls from the volleyball team to work in your company? I sure would. Because you know this, they're not going to cheat on you. Because they've learned what it is to live a life of integrity. I want to hire one of them. That's for sure. What are those things, the conversations you could have with your team, at least to stop teaching some things that are dishonest? We have these ethical and unethical scenarios that some of our coaches who are teachers, they do this with their students. And then they say, is this an ethical thing or unethical, and explain. Here's one that says, in soccer, there's one player between you and the goalie. As he or she comes and takes the ball away from you and keeps you from scoring, you fake that you were hit hard in hopes the opponent gets a yellow card or a red card and you're getting a free kick. Is that part of the sport, or is that poor sportsmanship? if you're outside of soccer, everyone outside of soccer says, well, that's poor sportsmanship. If you're inside, many of us will say, that's just how the game's played. In fact, we teach that. We teach those things. We teach them to be unethical. I hope for some of you who are not looking at me, you're looking in your own soul right now, because that's what I want to challenge you to do. So, it's 12:25, it's time to take a break, and we're going to go into the second dimension and take the pressure off and talk about coaching confidence after the break in my last session. So,
I want to ask a question on this subject.
okay.
You know, I think you have to touch the area of value and identity again, because truth is not going to happen if a coach loses a match, then the club owner don't want to pay him his salary, or maybe slash the salary. You know, so there's this fear that if he loses 2 matches and is having integrity, that means that at the end of the month, he will be fired.
Yeah.
You know, so what is the difference between value and identity? If a coach is working for a team or with a team and he wants to maintain what you are this teaching right now, what would be the value and the identity that he presents as a coach? So that's club owner.
I'm not exactly sure the question, other than to say it does flow from, these are all third dimension issues, and these are all spiritual issues. Yes. What I do flows out of who I am. So no matter where I am in the world, and I work with a lot of Muslim coaches, I work with coaches, believing coaches, unbelieving coaches, different believing coaches. But we speak about identity. And to be able to say, we all have multiple identities. Identities are just relationship statements. I don't say I do fathering, I am a father. That's an identity statement. I am a husband. No, I am a coach. I see those as identity. Then I've got to say, but what's my primary identity statement? What's the most important one for me? I am a child of God for whom he loves. I am marked in whom Christ dwells and delights. That's me. And what needs to flow out of me is out of my identity. If I know who I am. And so, all of those things, if it means, do I want to, again, I have to wrestle with the pressures that I'm in. Don't be conformed by those pressures. I need to strengthen the inside to push back against the outside. If there's a lot of pressure to win, and I need to be able to push back against that to say, I understand that. I want to win, but do I want to win at the price of my soul? Do I want to win at the price of my soul? It's my soul that I have to deal with. If I have to become a liar, if I have to teach people to cheat, if I have to do all of that because it helps me win, then I forfeited my soul. I get it, the pressure to win. That's not necessarily bad. Pressure tests us. Do we have the strength to push back against it? So it doesn't conform us, it tests us. Without the pressure, we're never tested. So I can say I'll be honest until the pressure to be dishonest comes. And then I'll find out whether I'll be honest or not. I got the right answer on the test. I'm going to tell the truth. But when the pressure of the game comes, will I tell the truth is a spiritual issue. It's an issue of the will, of the spirit, of the heart. We can come up with above the line and below the line stuff. This is where we'll take the break, because afterwards it ties in. This is just simply, do I want to live above the line or below the line? When I'm at the line, above the line, I demonstrate these things. Below the line, I demonstrate these things. I'm above the line of accountability. I'm accountable. Responsibility. And then think of the owner. I'll come back to that. Ownership. I take ownership. Below the line, I blame. I make excuses. And then I deny. So, if I want to live above the line, I own it. I want to live above the line, I have the ability to respond. I take accountability. I have the ability to account for the situation. And we want our players. When we live down here, there's a word for it. Victim. I'm a victim. I live up here. In some ways, this is the word, the different meaning. I'm an agent. That means I can act. I have a choice. Because I choose ownership, accountability, responsibility. Down here, I blame, I make excuse, deny. Could do that in all kinds of things. Yeah, I want to tell the truth, but if I don't lie, I might lose my job, so I use that as an excuse. No, I want to tell the truth, I take ownership. Doesn't matter. I become responsible, not a victim. I don't blame. Well, I would, but somebody else is making me do it. What side of the line do we want to live on? We're going to live and train our players to live above the line or below the line. Do we make excuses? Do we blame others? Or do we take responsibility? Above the line, there's this word. Below the line, so I can come up with all kinds of reasons why. But now am I taking responsibility? Or am I just making excuses? I'd like to be a coach who coaches this way, but might cost me my job. Or it might actually keep your job. Because you create pockets of beauty where people play their very best. I get people to play their very best, and I let the outcome take care of itself, because you cannot control it anyway. If it meant that, then why don't you pay off the officials' job? I mean, why wouldn't you? You can keep your job if you pay the official off, you win. Why wouldn't you do that? Just one more path on the pathway to keeping your job is the number one thing in winning. Do people do that? Do coaches do that? Anyway, this is a conversation that will go on and on and on. Because the voices are always talking, aren't they? Always talking. Character and winning. Always having this. So that's why you need each other. That's why we don't do this a lot. Well, let's take it's time to take a 30-minute break, isn't it? And a little lunch, another. So I go until what time? What time do you like to be done by? 2? 1?
I'll be done by 2
I'll be done by 2.
Will you be done by 1:30?
I'll be done by 1:30.
Yes.
Well, then we've got to go through confidence really fast. We can do that too. So we want to take a 20-minute thing? Look, let's say 1 o'clock. Belief is part of confidence. Confidence has two parts. Let's take a look. Because this is why it's so important. It's so important to understand confidence. Because you can make the case. Hey, that may be the most influential second dimension issue as it regards the outcome of our success. So as we define it, what is it? Here's how we define it. Confidence is an individual's belief that they have the necessary skill to achieve a desired outcome. Simply, it's a belief in my skill set. So belief is part of it, skill set's the other part. Belief is the second dimension, skill set's the first dimension. They're connected. Most coaches know how to coach the skill set. Do we know how to coach the belief? So it's a belief or faith. We use those two, for us, we use it kind of interchangeably, and I'll show you why. Belief or faith that I have the necessary skills to achieve a desired outcome. Where is the outcome?
Second dimension.
It's in the future. It's in the future. The outcome, the desired outcome, is what's yet to be achieved. It's in the future. So real confidence looks to the future, but it also looks to the past. Belief or faith looks backwards. Outcome looks forward. So how do we build confidence? We identify what we call, this is stuff we don't have in our training yet, but what we call the confidence can. The confidence can. I can. You can. She can. They can. We can. The confidence can. What goes into the can? What are the ingredients so the can isn't empty? How do we fill the can? Well, the can first looks backwards in belief or faith. Faith looks backward and brings itself into the present. Faith looks backward. What is faith? How would we define faith? We have our definition. How would you define it? Believing. Well, how do you define belief then? We're changing words, but that's not defining, that's changing words. I can't. Me can't. Okay. That's the present. What's the faith part that goes into that present? I asked a college, I work with a lot of college teams, or I did a lot of character development with a lot of college teams. And we took faith as one of the words, saying this: faith works in three directions. It works inwardly, it works outwardly, it works upwardly. On a team, me, teammates, coach. It works in all three directions. Here's how we define it. Faith is courageous trust in what I have good reason to believe true or credible. When I asked this college softball team, one of the girls on the team, these are 19 to 23-year-old players, and one of them defined it this way: faith is believing something even if you don't think it's true. I said, oh, I get it. I may believe it, but don't ask me to put any money on it, because I don't think it's true. No. That's a good definition of wishing. It's not a definition of faith. That's a I believe it even if it's not true. It's a fairy tale, but I'm going to believe it. I'm going to wish for it. No. This has to have substance. Real faith has substance. It has reasons. It has evidence. It goes beyond the reasons and the evidence. But it doesn't go against the reason and the evidence. So if some kid on your team says, Coach, put me in, I'm ready to play, a good question to ask is, why should I put you in? As a curiosity, but also to get them to give the reasons and the evidence, because that brings it into the camp. Here's why you should put me in. I've made every practice. I know the plays. I've worked on my skills outside of the practice. I get into the weight room and lift. What did that person just do? Give you evidence, give your reasons, and you pull it into the present. Confidence is built by looking backward, bringing the evidence into the present. Because if there's no evidence, it's a false confidence. Some kid may think they're ready to play, but you know very well there's not enough evidence. I've watched them practice. I know what they're doing outside. Everybody on the team wants to play. Give me good reasons why I should put you in. That's part of confidence. It looks backwards. It requires reasons and evidence. And the more skills I develop, the more reasons, the more evidence, that helps to build confidence. But remember, it also looks forward. The desired outcome, I have to have some kind of desired outcome as well. That desired outcome is best described as hope. Hope. What is the definition of hope? What does hope do? Hope that it creates that because it takes my present reality and keeps it open to a future possibility. Hope takes my present reality and keeps it open to a future possibility. Hope is present expectation of future good. That is the definition of hope. Present expectation of future good. It keeps it, the possibility is there. And the possibility is a good thing. Because if the present expectation is possible failure, that's not hope. And that doesn't build confidence. If my future expectation is not a good one, then I can't build confidence. I erode it. If we're a team that just goes, I know we're going to lose. We're not a winning team, so I know we're going to lose. Does that give hope in the future? No. Now, you may, as you talked about, if you have a team that is just, they're really low-skilled team, and we're playing a lot of high-skilled teams, we have to create a different future hope. It may not be winning. It may be development. This is going to show how we're learning to play as a team together. That's the future hope. Because I don't want to lie to them because we don't have enough of a skill set yet. We don't have enough on this side of the equation to say that we're going to be champions in the future. So I have to figure out what's another kind of hope that we can give them. We have to be hope bringers. Because if we don't, then without hope in the future, there is no power in the present. Without future hope, there is no present power. In fact, that is a functional definition of depression. If you've ever walked through depression yourself or with someone else, and if you haven't, you will. That's just how life works. It is by definition a loss of future hope. That's what depression is. Because I look and say, why bother if I look to the future and there's no hope? That's why you have to walk with people. And you don't encourage them, you try to help them to see a future. There is something worthwhile. So hope, it is present expectation of future good. How do I coach those things? Here are the three aspects of hope. hope that you have to develop as a coach. Goals. Our goal may, instead of saying our goal is to win, let's take a process or from a process. No, our goal is to play what it looks like to play as a team. So our goal is to, this next game is to learn when we do shifts, when we cross and when we do shifts. That's our goal. I don't want to look at the outcome, I'm going to look at the process. I've got to have a goal. Something, and it's clear and as specific as we can make it. So the more specific, the more powerful. Remember we did that exercise yesterday. In sharing, the more specific. If I just say, we want to get better, what does that mean? The more specific I can make it, the more transferable and the more powerful it is. This is what I mean by getting better. And you have to coach that. But goals. Remember that one of the 5 parts of a goal in English, we call it a SMART goal. Do you use that? SMART. What is S? Specific. What is M? Measurable. What is A? Achievable, attainable. R can be different in some places. R, realistic. Sometimes we call it relevant. Do I want it? And then T is time bound. That's what you need to do. Create goals. Specific, measurable, achievable or attainable, realistic or relevant, time bound. That's what you do as a coach. Now, that's our goal. What does this mean? Pathway. What does that mean? How you get there. The route. How you get there. Coaching is creating pathways. That's what you do. Okay, kid says, I want to get better at dribbling the ball. How do I get better? What do? You coach them. You give them a pathway. This is how. This is how you get better. You know, somebody says, I want to lose weight. Okay, I make it specific. I make it measurable. I want to lose 5 pounds or 5 kilos, and I want to lose it in 2 months. Is that attainable? Yeah. Is that a realistic? Sure. I got a time bound. Okay, I want to lose 5 kilos in 2 months so that I can fit into my suit for a wedding. Now I make it relevant. And then I go to a personal trainer. Why? Why would I go to a personal trainer? Why would I go to a coach?
To be more serious and achieve your aim.
Yeah, to help me achieve it. I don't know how to get there. You know how to get there. So I'm going to go to you so you can give me a pathway. Coaches, you're creating pathways. What does this mean? What does agency mean?
Connecting yourself to others.
Connect. Agency in this case simply means this. I have the power. I can do something about it. I have choices. That's why when above the line, I'm an agent. Below the line, I'm a victim. Victims feel like they have no power. It's all being done to them. Agents say, no, it's being done through me. I have a choice. This is part of helping your players live above the line. Look, we got a goal. I'm giving you a pathway. That doesn't mean you're going to get there. Because you've got to choose to do the work. You have choices. And when I have goals, pathways, and a sense of agency, I have hope. If I'm down here as a victim, I don't have any hope because I can't do anything about it. It's all being done to me. You have to help players. Give them a sense of choice and agency. You can't tell them everything to do and stand over them. Yeah. You need to help them to see that they have a choice and they can get better. And if they need help with pathway, I'm here as a coach. My job is to help you. You've got to be doing this on your own. In fact, You will not get better just at practice. You have to do this on your own, outside of it. And empower them with agents. That's what that is. And when I do that, I give them hope. Do that, I give them hope. So those are the ingredients. You need to coach the skills, develop those, help them to develop them. Give you reasons, give you evidence. Bring it into the present. Then go to the future with goals, pathways, and agency, which give you hope. Because now I see the future, and it gives me power in the present. Present expectation of future good. If I have hope in the future, I have power in the present. And then, touched on it before, these are the ingredients, but it needs something to motivate, to empower. And that is the motivation of love. If I love being on this team, if I love the game, if I feel valued and I feel covered as a player by the coach, and I want to be there, well, you bet that gives me the environment that I can develop the skills and look to the future. And that's how confidence is formed. So I have to coach both directions. I've got to coach both directions. If we had time, we can give this to you. We have a little, I work with a company that's called Future Hope, and they give this simple, kind of a simple little questionnaire to determine how much hope, agency, and so they've got these 12 questions, and 4 of the questions in there are dummy questions for future vision and empowerment. We can look through that at another time. Right? This is just a test even for yourself. I can send you the sheet. Remind me of that. I'll just send you the sheet that has a little bit of the instructions on it in the WhatsApp group. We'll be able to do that. And just remind you the hope scale sheet. Pretty simple. And it might be a good thing to put before your players. And this, because it'll tell you how much hope they have. Do they feel like they're agents, or do they have a tendency to feel like they're victims? So here's what you do. Here's 3 things you can do to build that. Some of them look backwards, some of them look forward. The first thing you do is this. If people are struggling with confidence, what direction does this one look? It looks backward. Past successes. It's in the present, and now let's look back. You've been successful. Maybe you've forgotten that. You know that they've demonstrated that, but they're doubting themselves. Look toward past successes. What are some ways you can do that? What are some ways you can show them what they aren't believing in? It's true, but they're not believing it. What way can you put evidence in front of them?
Remind them.
How do you remind them? What? Through video. You can do it through video. Listen, you should be using this if at all possible. This is really powerful. American football, if you go to a practice, there's a lot of them that have 6 or 7 cameras up at practice. Because the camera doesn't lie. The camera tells you the truth. It'll help somebody who says also, Coach, I'm doing this the way that you tell me. The video said, why don't you watch it? Oh, I guess I'm not keeping my eyes proper, not turning my foot properly. I thought I was, but the camera doesn't lie. It can be helpful, but because it tells the truth. Other ways you can remind them of past success. Maybe they've done some things really well, at a tournament, trying to think about as in football, it's easier in some other sports, but they've whether they've scored or they've made that kick that they're not making now, take them back to that, but don't you tell them. See, it's one thing for you to say something, it's another thing for you to ask them to tell you about it. I want you to think about it. Remember that time. Tell me about it. What were you doing? What were you thinking? Because in confidence, for confidence, there's only one voice that matters. There's only one voice that matters in confidence. What voice is that? The individuals. Their voice. It's what I'm saying in my head is the only voice that matters for my own confidence. Your job is to help change the voice in my head. Your job is to help change the voice in my head. And one of the ways is to help me remind myself of past success. But reminder of past success helps build confidence. Here's another one. It's not theirs, it's somebody else's experience. Watching similar others succeed. Now, this you need to be careful with. This is not a comparison kind of thing where somebody says, I wish you were like your brother. That's not helpful. That's not what we're talking about. Here's what we're talking about. I want you to think about this. Have you ever said this? Shoot, if he can do it, I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it. That's what we're talking about. See, that's where we move from excuses, I can't do it, to ownership. Look, if they can do it, I can do it. That builds my confidence. I don't think I can do it, then I watch some other people just like me, and what it does is it helps them to see maybe that was an excuse, a below the line. And I was treating it as a reason. I'm being responsible, I'm reasonable. No, it was an excuse. I'm going to take ownership. That gives me confidence. So watching similar, and then the third one is simply this. Create an environment that builds up, encourages. Encouragement from self or others. Create that environment. Notice that courage wasn't one of the words we put on the board. We didn't put courage up there. That's because courage isn't simply one of the words. Courage is the form of every one of those words at their testing point. It takes courage to tell the truth, to be honest. It takes courage to do justice. It takes courage to persevere. Courage is the form of those words when it's tested. That's what we want you to put courage in. There's too many environments that take courage out, that discourage. Create the environments that put courage in. And here are 5 ways to do that. Here are 5 ways to focus on that. What you need to do is don't praise talent or giftedness, praise the effort. Focus on the process and the effort, not on the end result itself. The end result, see, you made that goal. How did you do that? Hard work and good strategy, see how that pays off? Keep working hard. Keep the results will take care of themselves. Praise, effort, and strategy. Second, be specific. When you say good job, I don't know what you're talking about. It's praise, but it's not very helpful. What about it was good? See how you position your foot to trap that ball? You turned it, and how you held that? See what you did to do that? That's what we're talking about. Good job. The more specific, the more powerful. Third, don't be this kind of praise machine that has no reason. You're just trying to create, you're trying to manipulate. When you do this, when you don't do it, when there aren't good reasons, it's not effective. In fact, it can be undermined. And then, this is the last one. Praise and pride. Now, that doesn't mean take them off to the side, nobody else hears. What it does mean is you don't do it like this. Hey, everybody, do you see how Joseph tracked that ball and caught that there? Everybody, did you see that? Great job. Now I'm using it as a reward. And praise is not a reward. This kind, it's feedback. Now, somebody else may hear it, but it's not for other people. It's for you. And somebody may be around, they may hear it, but it's for you. If it's for everybody to hear, then it's a reward. If it's for you to hear, it's feedback. That's what we want this to be. Look at the effort and strategy, not the result. You can tie it into the result, but make them understand the result is because of the effort and the strategy. Because you can always put in effort in good strategy. You can't always get the result you want, but you can always control effort in your strategy. So, let me just give you, this is how you do get better at everything. I have to believe, it affects my action, and then I see the growth. For instance, if I believe I can get in better shape, what's the action going to be? If a player believes that they can achieve something, if they've had past success, I tend to believe I can still have more success. If I believe that, what tends to be the action? Well, if I believe I can get better shape, I tend to go into the gym to do that. And then what's the result? Growth. Which is just the opposite. If I could never, too late for me, I just can't. Then what do you think the action is going to be?
Laziness.
And what's the result? This is how we get better at anything. So, how do you help them? When you're tempted to say, or the voice in your head, or you hear a player say this, you say it or you hear a player say, I can't. Teach them to add one more word. What word do you teach them to add?
I can't.
Yet. Or you say, I can if, I can't yet. It's true, I can't do this yet. Why do you think you should do it? You haven't put the time and energy and effort in. If you think you can do something you haven't tried or haven't put energy and effort, it's a false confidence. You're telling the truth here, but help them reframe that. My job is to help you be able to do it in the future. I'm going to give you future hope. Because I can't gives me no hope in the future. I can't yet. Wow, that opens the future up. Because there'll be a time when I can, if I put the effort, if I build this side of the equation. I work hard, I've got evidence, I've got skills, maybe I can now. The last thing I want to share with you is, for this to work, you need to help them understand learning zones and performance zones. When am I in the learning zone and when am I in the performance zone? Because we expect different things. In the learning zone, the goal is to get better. The performance zone, the goal is to do the best we can because we're performing. Games are almost always performance zones, competitions. Practice should be a learning zone, most of the time. And if it's not, you need to tell them. You can say, now in practice, we're going to do a scrimmage and I'm going to evaluate your skill set. So it's a performance zone. But otherwise, practice should be a learning zone. activities are designed to get better, to improve. We design them to perform and execute. We don't put new formations in the game. They can't execute. We put in the formation that we've worked on. Game time, I want to see you execute. There we concentrate on the stuff we haven't mastered, haven't got good at. And then what we have mastered in the performance. So mistakes, I mentioned them yesterday. I expect mistakes in the learning zone. Because by definition, learning means going from what I already know to what I don't know. That's a step of mistakes, of learning. The path to learning is always through mistakes. Always. Always. Mistakes that I evaluate and improve on so that I master them and then I've learned them. If I'm only doing what I already know, I'm not learning, I'm repeating. I'm honing, but I'm not learning. And then, of course, that's what we say. Keep the stakes low, price of learning. If we raise the price by getting angry, if we raise the price by making them sit, if we raise the price that way, you're going to lower the learning curve. You can always lower the learning. The higher price of mistake, the slower the learning. Always, for all skills. The higher the price of mistake, the slower the learning. And then it's the challenge in the learning zone. Sometimes here the mistakes, if we're doing these things, it's a loss of focus. That's what we tend to see. But the response needs to be the same. I want to keep learning. That's why over here we continue to coach. Because we're going to see mistakes in the game. We don't expect them. We don't want them, but we're going to see them. And so now we're still in the learning zone as well. Or the desire is to keep learning. And we didn't talk much about this, but growth mindset is the mindset that says I can always learn and grow. So when you design your practices, help them to know, and you've got to remember too, is this the learning zone? Then I need to let them know that I'm expecting mistakes because we're trying to get better at things we don't know right now. That's what this practice is for. That's not what the game is for. The game is to perform. If in your practice you're going to turn it into a performance zone, then tell them. Right now, we're going to evaluate your skill set as we play these games. I want to see what you can do. So I've told them it's a performance zone. By the way, if your practices are open to fans to come, I'm not saying it should or shouldn't be, but just understand you're starting to create a performance zone, even if you say it's a learning zone. Because now we have spectators. Now we have spectators. And it's hard, once we have spectators, I'm thinking I should perform. I don't want you to not have people there because you don't treat them well and you don't want them to see how you treat them. No. But just help to understand, in America, a lot of times if a lot of parents want to come and watch a practice, I will say, we'll try to have some separation. I don't want to deny them that, but I want them to understand. I don't want you looking at your son or daughter to see how they perform. I want them to be learning. So I always tell the parents when children come home from a game or practice, stop asking results questions. Ask growth questions. Don't ask them how they did. That's a results question. Ask them this. What did you learn today? What new thing did you try today? What hard thing did you try today? And then the third is, who did you help get better? Start asking those questions instead of how did you do? Because now you're focusing on result. You want to focus on process. That is tied into creating confident athletes. Creating confident athletes. Look backward, look forward, create an environment where they want to be there. You'll build confidence. You'll build confidence. You'll build the skill set, and you'll build the belief. You'll build confidence. Okay. That's all I got, because time crunch. That's all the time we have. That's all the time we have. We got more. We got more. It's called an online course. We got more, but we don't have more time. That's good.
Give me a lazy man who wants to walk. Don't give me a strong man that doesn't want to walk. Let's give it up to Mr. Mark again. Next 2 minutes, we're having Mr. Paul Gaga talking here to talk to us about moralities, ethics, and professionalism. Mr. Paul, are you set? Let's give it up for Mr. Paul. Good afternoon, everyone.
The atmosphere is a bit tense because we've sat down enough for some hours and we listened to this great speech from one of our guests. In fact, this topic has really blessed me personally. I think it should be something that is